The Willmar wrestling team got a huge win this year. They took the title of section champions after beating Bemidji to advance to the state tournament. But that's only part of the story. WCCO's John Lauritsen has the rest.
And all of a sudden it's like, yeah, because he flips him over and seals it with a pin, and there's just a ton of excitement.
It was a big win over a big rival. The Willmar Cardinals got a pin at heavyweight to advance to state. But this is a sport where the lower weight classes are just as important as the upper ones.
He's really explosive, you know. It's always fun to wrestle him. You never know what's going to happen. He's really good.
Wilfredo Chavez is talking about teammate Carson Eichhorst, a 120-pound junior known for a variety of devastating moves. And he does them all with one arm.
The single leg, snap down, gator roll, assassin.
When he was young, seemed like he was always kind of super speed.
Carson's parents, Brandon and Rachel, say doctors were as surprised as they were when he was born without a right arm. But it didn't take them long to realize he was going to be just fine.
He's probably the most determined kid that I know.
Very, very proud.
And they should be.
Make it crisp.
Carson split time between varsity and junior varsity this year and won a pretty big tournament in Hutchinson.
I remember watching him in the youth, and he'd be like, wow, how are we even going to teach some stuff and accommodate for this kid? But he picked so much and was self-driven and stuff and picked up naturally. He actually probably taught us more.
Carson's success actually goes beyond the wrestling mat. He's a goalkeeper on the soccer team, and he throws the shot put in the springtime. Not to mention the discus and high jump, all while carrying a 3.9 grade point average. But wrestling might be his favorite.
On the mat, he just works hard.
There's a lot of moves where you're required to use two hands, so I have to find my way around it.
And he has. Carson has been successfully improvising his entire life.
Break.
Now he and his teammates can put down section champs on that long list of accomplishments.
Just keep pushing through. It gets easier once you get past the barrier.
In Willmar, John Lauritsen, WCCO 4 News.
A Minneapolis mother who has undergone 2 heart transplants is making it her mission to share the life-changing power of organ donations. WCCO's David Schumann has the remarkable story.
A stranger's gift has allowed Melanie Wickersheim to be here with her daughter.
You know, how do you thank someone for saving your life? There'll never be the right words.
Melanie needed a heart and kidney transplant last year, nearly 3 decades after her first heart transplant.
I was 10 years old when I was diagnosed with myocarditis. Just became very sick very suddenly. I was very close to dying.
But a match came through, her first miracle. Melanie says she went on to do everything a person could imagine in life.
That dream kind of came to a halt in 2020. When I had a heart attack.
She waited 2 months for a donor match.
I would wake up every day thinking, is this the day that I'm going to get the call, or is this the day that my heart's going to give out?
Then the second miracle, a second heart, partly thanks to new technology that keeps the donor heart beating, adding hours to the amount of time it can be in transit.
It's a huge game changer. It allows us to open the pool, or a larger pool of donors that we're looking at for our recipients, essentially casting a wider net.
Melanie says she honors her donor by being as healthy as she can be. Profound gratefulness for her gift.
Registering to be an organ donor is an act of love, and being generous in this way, it's just so powerful.
This next story is one you have to see to understand. She has not only watched history unfold, she is history. Take a look at the incredible story of Debbie Montgomery.
It's a story that started in the 40s in the thriving St. Paul neighborhood of Rondo.
We had a 4-bedroom house and 3 city lots. If you look at the Rondo Plaza, it actually shows the lots. We had our own doctors, our lawyers, our dentist. We had our Fields ice cream shop, hardware stores, grocery stores.
A thriving community.
It was a thriving community. They took over 600 houses and 300 viable African-American businesses.
The neighborhood was decimated as politicians built an interstate right through it. Debbie Montgomery lived there with her grandparents, a trained bellhop and a restroom attendant who found a way to survive.
And so if it was a good tip, we had meat, and if it wasn't, we didn't. But I never knew we were poor. I never felt we were poor.
Resilience is in her blood. So is determination. As a teen, she was voted to represent the NAACP on a national level.
So to sit in the meetings with all of these high professional African Americans from around the country and be the youth member on the board and to hear the discussions, it was just phenomenal. I mean, the insight that I was getting, and then bringing that back to the young people here.
You were there as history was unfolding.
Yes.
Debbie used her grandfather's train pass to go to Washington, D.C., to witness a moment that would define America.
I have a dream today. You were there for the I Have a Dream speech, standing there.
Yeah, at the back of the reflective pool.
Could you have ever imagined how historic that moment was?
No, I didn't. Trust me, I didn't.
She headed south again 3 years later. She was a student at the U of M. They took a bus to Alabama to march from Selma to Montgomery so African Americans could vote.
My fellow Americans.
Lyndon Johnson had the National Guard there because the KKK was there with their hoods and their guns. And, you know, people always say to me, weren't you afraid? I said, you know, as a young person, I thought I was going to live forever. I wasn't thinking about these crazy men.
So another page of history, you were right there.
Just means I'm old.
Spirited always, Debbie was also a standout speed skater. Beating an Olympian, she still wasn't allowed to compete at the elite level.
I was a very athletic young person.
But then you weren't able to
get in because they weren't letting African Americans in.
Debbie got her master's degree and met the love of her life. She was recruited to apply for the St. Paul Police Department. And remember that athleticism? She had to take the West Point agility test.
I was the only woman that passed, and only 8 men did it faster than I did.
She then became the only and first woman on the St. Paul Police Force. She also became a mom to 4, working nights on the toughest beat.
What did you like about that?
You know what? I liked working with people. I'm a people person.
And she did that for nearly 30 years.
So these are all your police badges?
All the way to the city council. This last one is my badge for city council.
It's a lot to be proud of. Quite a career.
A career that came under great scrutiny one city over in 2020 when George Floyd was murdered by a police officer.
First of all, we are your public servants with an emphasis on servant. The thing that I find hard. The majority of the officers are doing the right thing.
The right thing is what Debbie is still working to do. She lives in Rondo, and after years of service, part of that neighborhood now bears her name.
Knowing you marched in Washington, knowing you were in Selma, what in this moment is your hope?
Each one of us has got a special talent, and we have to be able to identify it, and we have to be able to share it.
Do you see hope in this moment?
I'm praying for hope in this moment. Yeah, I'm praying for hope in this moment.
Just ahead, get ready to turn up the speakers. We're going to tell you how you can get involved in some rock and roll at any age.